In this session, we are going to have an overview of how to add a user interface to a master data management version 11.6 that has been configured. When MDM version 11.6 is installed, all the user interfaces, including the business administration, inspector, enterprise viewer, and web reports, get extracted. The user interfaces that were selected by the end user in the Installation Manager panel for installation are configured when the configure_master data management target is executed. When any target has to get executed after the execution of configure_master data management, it is referred to as a post-configuration target. Modify_MDM is a post-configuration target that has to be executed to add or remove any user interfaces after the configuration of MDM. Modify_MDM is a madconfig target in that it has to be executed using the madconfig commands. The madconfig command is available as batch file in Windows and as a shell script in all other platforms. The Modify_MDM target requires certain input parameters from the end user. These values can be categorized into those required for UI deployment and those required for communication to the MDM operational server. For UI deployment, details of the WebSphere application server host in which the UI has to be deployed along with the soap port has to be provided. Details on the server such as the cell name and the cluster name in case of installation on cluster, and the cell name, node name, and server name in case of installation on WAS base or WAS ND have to be provided. Also, details on the WebSphere application server's administrator user and password have to be provided to enable the deployment functionality to work. Once the user interface has been installed, it communicates with the MDM application server. In order to perform such communication, it requires details on the host and port in which through which it can communicate to the MDM operational server. Along with that detail, it also requires the password for the MDM administrator user. Let us have a quick demo on how a UI can be added using the Modify_MDM target. We have an MDM instance installed at D drive instances demo MDM folder. When MDM gets installed, it creates a few files, including the MDM_installed.properties file that holds details on the parameters that were provided during configuration. It also maintains a couple of other files that hold the status of the features that have got installed with MDM. Details from these files will be read during the execution of the Modify_MDM target. The target obtains details on whether a feature has to be added or removed. It also requires user input on which user interface has to be added. It requests the user to provide the WebSphere application server type for the installation of the user interface. It obtains the value of the WebSphere application server host from the user and provides a default value based on values it reads from MDM_install.properties file. When the default value has to be accepted, it is sufficient to press the enter key. When manual values are required, they can be entered in the console. The WebSphere application server username and password are also obtained from the user. The system wants us to decide whether the web report has to be installed on a WAS. For the claim is obtained obtained from the user. For communication to the MDM operational server, it requires details on the host in which the MDM operational server has been installed. This can be obtained from the server parameters.xml file that can be found in the MDM install directory /mds/scripts folder. This file gets created when configure_master data management gets executed. We provide the value of the first member host here, since this installation of MDM was on a VAS cluster. Communication between the user interface and the operational server can use SSL. The system obtains a value from the user to determine whether SSL has to be used or not. We provide the option to use SSL for communication. When SSL is being used, the HTTPS port of the server has to be provided as the value for the engine port. When SSL is not enabled, the HTTP port can be provided as the value. The MDM administrator password is also obtained as an input to enable communication to the MDM engine. Web report also requires to communicate with the database. It reads all other database related parameters from the MDM_install.properties file and obtains the database password as an input from the user. Once the system takes in all the values, it updates the MDM_install.properties file with details of the properties provided by the user. It then configures the application. It creates an EAR file that contains the details that we provided for communication with the application server, with the operational server. It then deploys the user interface on the WebSphere application server. The system also updates the configuration files MDM_is_install.properties and MDM_rollback.properties to indicate that a new UI has been added. We are able to see here that the status for the web report is a yes in the MDM_rollback.properties and in the MDM_is_installed.properties file. Once the application has been installed, it has to be started from the WebSphere application server administrator console. We can then try to log into the application. In the WebSphere, we are able to see the web reports application here. We will start the application from the WebSphere administration console. We are able to see here that the application has started. We can also log into the application using the URL corresponding to the application. The log files corresponding to this installation can be found at the MDM install directory /log/log/madconfig folder and in the Java subfolder under it. able to see the modify MDM target along with the other sub-targets that got executed during the execution of the modify MDM target. Thank you.